All right, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there in YouTube land? Today we got a little special for you. This is a brand new show between myself and Mrs. T. Mrs. T, how you doing?
Hey fools, how you doing?
All right, what we're doing is we're calling this the Fresh Take, and on the Fresh Take, it's designed to give our thoughts on movies, comics, anime, stuff of that nature. And basically, what we're going to be doing, because of course you read a lot of critics' reviews, or you hear a lot of critics' reviews. Well, critics often have to they do it for their job, so they always say, well, I've seen this 100 times before. Me personally, it's not my job. I just like watching movies. I just like reading comics. I just like watching anime and stuff like that. So I don't really see everything all the time like as they see it. So this is just our way of giving our take on Hollywood, Hollyweird, and Marvel, DC, and all of that in between. And today, this afternoon, our first couple of topics that we want to talk about. We want to talk about comics and movies and comic book movies, basically comic book movies, and our problems with how Hollywood sometimes their interpretations of some of our favorite material. I think we're going to start off with let's start off with Man of Steel. Okay,
Let's do that. Yeah.
yeah. Now, Man of Steel, great movie. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the movie a lot. I thought it was fun. I thought they did a good job of actually showing Krypton. I thought they did a good job of showing, you know, Superman in a different light. I did have a couple of problems with the movie though, and one of them had to do with the Kents. And I can't really get mad at Kevin Costner or Diane Lane. I thought they did a pretty good job acting wise. I thought the problem was more writing wise.
Yeah.
And here's my and I think you can agree with this, T. The whole tornado. uh,
uh,
okay, people. Like I said, I read comics. I've read Superman comics for a long time. I'm sorry, but Jonathan Kent. First of all, Jonathan Kent would have never said not to help people. That's just number one. He would have never told him not to help anyone.
no.
That's one of those things that they did. The Kents taught him to help people whenever you can. There's no way in the world you're gonna make me buy that he's not supposed to help people. And that was problem number one. Problem number two was the way Jonathan Kent died. All right, now this ain't no spoiler alert. If you ain't seen this movie by now, that's your fault. It ain't my fault.
Shame on you.
This ain't my fault. If you ain't seen the movie, I'm sorry, but that's between you and your time. Um, in the movie, there's a tornado that happens. He's telling Clark, don't come save. First of all, he went back for the dog. That was stupid. But he he holds his hand up, basically telling Clark not to come. Now, anybody that knows Superman's powers, Clark is fast as I don't know what. He would have been able to go get him and get back to the overpass before anybody would have saw him. Don't you agree?
Oh yes. I mean, I get to approach this also as a fan, but also as a industry guy because a lot of you probably know that I went to film school. I'm a film graduate top of my class, by the way. um, but yeah, I can approach it from both angles, and I can see like as far as let's go back to the character of Jonathan Kent. I
Mhm.
can see where they were trying to go with Jonathan Kent from a movie aspect, because again, fans of the comic, we're already in tune. We know the universe. We're good to go. But the movie going audience is comprised mostly of just casual fans. So
Mhm.
they're not going to be as in tune. So I understand that they got to cater to them as well, and they got to kind of do different things to make it cater to a broader audience. I understand that, but I'm a little tired of these movie tropes, as you alluded to, as far as the saving the dog. You always got to save the animals,
Yeah.
and it's getting ridiculous. We saw it in Independence Day where they had to go back and save Boomer the dog. Even though they're risking life and limb. You know, it's always the dogs. You got to save the kids, and it's too perfect. But back to Jonathan Kent. Yeah, the thing about the way Kent died in the comics as opposed to the movies, it was pretty much perfect because the thing about the way he died in the comics was to show you that yeah, Superman has all these powers. He's all powerful, but the one thing he can't do is save Jonathan Kent from dying from a heart attack.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's what's so perfect about it. It's a lesson to like, no matter how powerful you are, you can't affect lives that way. You can't affect people dying. Yeah, you can save people, but you can't affect nature, basically.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so perfect. What they did in the movie was just asinine. It was just go ahead. It was just dumb.
It was stupid. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I mean, I know people like, oh, I love my dog too. I'm sorry. Realistically, if your dog don't know to get out the doggone car, I'm sorry. That's a casualty. But I mean, I love dogs too. Don't get me wrong. But that, to me, knowing what I know about, Superman and stuff like that, if you want to give me a better impact for me feeling his death, then give him something, give him like cancer, a stroke, something that he can't do anything about.
Exactly.
Give him that. Give me that, and then I'll feel something. I'm sitting in the movie and I'm like, this is BS. Like, there's no way in the world you're going to convince me that Clark didn't have enough time to go over there, get him, and bring him back. Overpass. You can't convince me of that.
No, I mean, let me start. I didn't get, because you said it yourself, and I didn't get to say it. I love this movie. I love Man of Steel. We're just talking about the certain little gripes that we have about it. Because you can't love everything about a movie. I don't care what movie you watch. There's something that it doesn't click with you. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty big to me because it, like you said, it speaks to Jonathan Kent's character. Mm-hmm. And it speaks to Clark Kent's character as well, as far as him not being able to stop, because, I mean, I don't care what your dad says, in a situation like that, you're going to save him, no matter, regardless, him putting his hand out and saying, no, don't save me from dying right here is not going to stop Superman or anybody from trying. I would have tried to save my dad in that situation. So it just didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for Clark or Jonathan Kent's characters either. So,
and I know they're saying, well, we got to do this visually. Probably it was like we got to make it some kind of. They probably didn't want to have the death like that. They probably had to say we got to make it some kind of action-packed sequence. I'm like, no, you don't. Not really. Not really.
I understand. Right. It would have been so much more poignant for him to die the way he died. And I understand that. Oh, we don't want to remind people of this movie. We want to do our own thing. But sometimes you do your own thing to your own detriment. Sometimes it's just good enough to leave it the way it was. Speaking quickly about Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, they tried to dance around, what Raimi did in the original with great power comes great responsibility. They didn't want to say it. They didn't want to say that line at all. But you can see Uncle Uncle Ben, right? I'm going, mind here. You can see Uncle Ben trying to dance around saying that line, but it would have just been better if he just said the damn line.
Because we already know it.
We know, right? We're expecting it, and then when you don't do it, it's like we're not doing it for the simple fact that it's already been done. And sometimes that's just stupid, just do it because that's the way it should be, sometimes. So. Yeah. I think we covered how the stupidity of that. So.
And there was one more thing and I kind of broke into it a little bit, but the last major gripe I had, once again, it evolves around the Kents, is when Clark saves the school bus, and everybody and the hysterical mother comes over to the house, and they're trying to brush it off, and Kevin Costner goes outside and he basically tells him, I'm sorry, but the way I took it was he basically told Clark to let people get killed. I'm sorry. No, Jonathan Kent would not have said it, because the way Jonathan and Martha raised them was you help people if you can help them. No matter who they are, you help them. There's not a reason for Jonathan Kent to tell him to basically let people get killed so people won't know anything about you. Really?
I mean,
Really?
that scene. I had no problem with the scene, but to go as far as, like you said, telling him to let people die. I mean, I don't think any human being would have said that. I mean, it just doesn't seem logical. You know, if you could help people,
especially to a kid who just saved everybody.
Right.
Yeah, especially to a kid who just saved everybody.
Right. I mean, a kid who already has enough issues as it is. You're gonna tell him to let people die?
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't work. You're not helping him at that point. You're hurting him. And again,
that's what I think.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I lost
my only. I think. Oh, the thing that killed me, I think on that issue, I think that was more to do with the writing, as opposed to, you know, I guess because, like you said, they want to make it. We're gonna make it our own thing. We're not gonna touch it on anything else, because my main problem is, and I know people are gonna hate me for saying this, I like Christopher Nolan. Do not get it twisted. I like Christopher Nolan. Sick and tired of DC trying to do this. Everything got to be serious and gritty. I'm so sick of that. I'm like, because some of these characters are actually fun characters.
Mm.
They are fun. There are a lot of fun. There's some fun characters in DC. So to try to make everybody Batman is kind of getting on my nerves a little bit with DC. I mean, I can understand you want to be grounded, but not everybody's Batman. I mean, major gripe that comes with me in it was the TV show Arrow. That might as well not be about Oliver Queen. It might as well be about Bruce Wayne, because that's not Oliver Queen.
Mm.
I hate to have to be the one to break it. That's not Oliver Queen. So it's on their hands, and now they want to make everything like that success.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. Follow your characters.
I feel like sometimes DC, or I don't know if it's DC or Warner. I'm guessing it's Warner Brothers. I feel like they're a little scared to go there with it, because they know they have success with Batman, the gritty Batman, and when they went a little kookier with Batman, obviously we got Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, I thought Batman Forever was kind of where it was a good kind of middle ground. As far as a little kooky, it was still maintaining his darkness.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I lost you. Oh, I lost him. Well, I guess we'll just give him a couple minutes so we can get back in. But
all right.
Let's see. T, you there?
We dropped out.
Okay, all right.
Still going though. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, I think Warner Brothers is a little bit wary, a little afraid to give it a little bit of that Avengers feel, which I don't think they should exactly go Avengers. And I'm actually going to kind of give them a little bit of a pass, because I think they did with Man of Steel because of Superman Returns, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like Man of Steel was the Superman that we had to have after Superman Returns, because they had to kind of get really far away from the Donner Superman, because basically that's what Returns wanted to be, a continuation of the Donner Supermans. So I feel like Zack Snyder had to go kind of balls to the walls the other way to make Superman, make him viable again. So I'm going to hold out until they get to the more fun characters. Yeah, Superman is that character, but I feel like we're still in the origin story stage of Superman. I think we're going to get a more fun Superman after Batman basically kicks his ass.
Yeah,
and he kind of...
he has to lighten up.
Right, he lightens up and settles into the Superman that we all know. I think that's what's going to happen as far as his character go. I think, with the... oh my God, I can't. I'm with the the cyborgs and the you know,
Wonder Woman.
the Green Arrows and the Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
We'll start to get a little bit more diverse in the feel of these movies. So
Okay.
Aquaman, you know, so yeah, and Flash and all that. I think that's when we'll. I'm holding out a little bit for criticism as far as that goes, because I think they're trying to build something here that will eventually branch out and be more, what we expect.
Okay. All right.
More fun. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, and I can see that as well, because like you said, we're kind of waiting for those characters, because I know it's usually Green Lantern, Flash, they're usually bringing the jokes at some point, so they're more the joke. Clark does it every now and then, Superman does it every now and then, depending on who he's around, but yeah, as far as Justice League concerned, yeah, we're probably gonna have to wait until this Batman versus Superman comes out and sees exactly what we're getting. And I'm glad you brought up Superman Returns, because now we're finna get into our second topic, and that's Bryan Singer. Okay. My issue with Bryan Singer and critics goes as such. The critics love to just give him a pass for anything he does. He can make stupidity, and critics will be like, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's Bryan Singer. It's his triumphant return." Screw Bryan Singer, all right? as far as comic book movies are concerned, forget him. I mean, does the man make good movies? Yes, he does make good movies. I am not denying that. I'm not saying he's a horrible director. I'm saying as it pertains to comic book movies and comic book character-driven movies, he don't know what he's doing. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be honest with you. X-Men 1, X-Men 2, people were given the praise. X-Men 3 comes along, Brett Ratner does it, everybody's mad. But if you go back and watch X3 and you watch X2 and X1, there's no other way to shoot that movie unless you're shooting it like X2 and X1. Because that's what Bryan Singer and that writing team did. Now, if you know anything about X2, you know that Bryan Singer and the complete writing team from X-Men went to Superman to do Superman Returns. That's why they weren't on they didn't work on Last Stand. I think one of the writers stayed to work on Last Stand. I think it was just one of them. The writers, the director, they went to Superman Returns, and that's a whole nother can of worms. So my issue is, because I'm a big X-Men fan. Matter of fact, X-Men was the first comic I started reading, because I felt more in tune with the X-Men than I did with any other comic book team or characters to begin with. So my problem with the X-Men movies is I haven't seen an X-Men movie yet. The X-Men are a team. It's not Wolverine and everybody else that we got for this movie. The X-Men are a team. They fight together as a team. Yes, they bicker. Yes, they argue. Yes, Cyclops and Wolverine can't stand each other because Jean playing both of them. But the integral part of it is when it comes time for them to take down the bad guy, they come together, they come up with a plan, and they do it as a team. I have not seen that yet. The movie that just came out, X-Men Days of Future Past. Spoiler alert. At the beginning of the movie, and you've seen it in the trailer, at the beginning of the movie, they start with the whole future past thing. Now, in the comic, they did that, and there was a problem that I had where in the comic, they showed the gravestones of, like, everybody, like Captain America's, Peter Parker, and you saw the year they died. But in the movie, they didn't even do that. But my thing, what I wanted them to do in the movie was show the gravestones, the tombstones, but just show the different X-Men that you haven't shown in the movies anyway. Jubilee, Gambit, Betsy Braddock. There are a lot of mutants that you could have just did that part with. And people say, well, they couldn't put that part in. Yes, they could have, because there's a shot where they pan. When they pan in before they get to the actual concentration camps, that's where you could have put it at. Because they go over the mansion. That's where you could have put it at. My second problem, and this is another spoiler alert, how dare you have Wolverine, adamantium, in a movie and he don't take out one Sentinel? How dare you? Even the Fox cartoon got that right. He would go through, he would shred through a doggone Sentinel. There's nothing mutant about the claws. His mutant powers are healing and animal senses. There ain't nothing mutant about the claws. So I'm not even gonna get into the Sentinels. That's a whole nother hour of review. But what's your thoughts on that, T?
To continue where you're going here is that my experience with X-Men was mostly from the Fox cartoon in the 90s. So Sentinels getting destroyed by Wolverine was a given. And we've been waiting how many movies? 6 movies?
6 to see him do it.
To see him do it. And we finally get them in a movie together where he can do it, and they don't do it. And I'm like, and wait, we're to the point where you can't make the excuses about technology and that kind of technology is there.
Yeah.
We're beyond that. I mean, the technology was pretty much there in 2000. So for us to see that, and at this point, I feel like I'm being trolled. I feel like we're being trolled as fans to not be able to see these things. Because look, I get it. Like, for me, the X-Men movies are good movies. They're not really good X-Men movies. What's with the black leather uniforms?
Yeah.
I mean, you have all these different characters, and they're portrayed. A lot of that is portrayed through their uniform. Their personalities. So, what is so difficult about giving us that?
At least somebody different than everybody else.
And the thing is, this is what kills me. The thing is, we have seen the concept art, not only the concept art, but we have seen the finished costumes. I've seen Wolverine's finished costume. That's more like the comics, and they just will not put it on them. they get to a point where they're like, we don't think this will work, and it's just like, it will work.
It will work. Just do it. Trust me, it'll work.
I just don't understand that mentality of, look, I understand, like I said, I come from a filmmaker background. I understand films. I understand certain things don't work in films that worked on a comic book page or work. I understand that. I get that. But something like this, as far as the costumes and their personality, this is what we love, as the fans. So why are you holding it back on that stuff? That's what I do. I just don't get that. Like, I understand certain things won't work. Certain nuances in the storylines won't work for a 2-hour movie. I get that. But these are things that will work and should work. It should be in the movies,
Especially when you're talking X-Men, because
especially.
And another thing that I had a problem with. Look, I like Magneto. Magneto is not their only villain. Magneto, to me, ain't even their best villain.
No.
Their best villains are Sinister, Apocalypse, freaking what's the guy's name? Bastion. There's so many other bad guys that they have to just focus on the issue between Xavier and Magneto. Look, we know it already. They're best friends. We know it already. And even if you don't read the comics, you've seen it in every doggone movie. At some point, you're gonna get tired of it.
Right.
We get it.
I mean, that's the reason it doesn't hold weight, is because we know that they're best friends, and Magneto is a bad guy out of reluctance. It's like he doesn't see himself as a bad guy. We get that, because he feels like he's doing, what he's doing for the greater good. He doesn't give a damn about the consequences, and that's what makes him a bad guy, technically. So, I mean, we get that. We got that in the first movie. By the second movie, it wore thin. It was, we need new bad guys, new. Obviously we get side bad guys, but we need a new main, bad guy, and we haven't really gotten that. And I mean, that's what kind of, this is we're going off topic with this, or I'm going off topic with this, but that's what killed me with the Matrix movies. They couldn't get past Agent Smith. Yeah, he was an awesome bad guy, but you need for 2 and 3, there should have been something bigger than him. That drew us in, that kept us in, and that's what we needed with X-Men movies.
Yeah. So. And to add to that, there is, outside of that whole non-Sentinel thing, which people, I'm sorry, that's BS. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. I don't care if you don't read comics. There's no excuse for that. My other thing is, as far as Bryan Singer and this writing team that they have working on these X-Men movies, is you have, and the Wolverine did this well. Logan has always had like a sidekick. Either in the '80s, in the '70s and '80s, it was Shadowcat. In the '90s, and in the '90s, it was predominantly Jubilee. Um, in the Wolverine movie, they actually got it right by giving him a sidekick, Yukio, and that girl, she did a good job. Um, we've done X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, and in all those movies, there is a girl playing Jubilee. There is a girl playing Shadowcat, and none of them even interact with Wolverine at all. Period.
Like, again, I feel like they're trolling us. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, why hold them back and make these other characters more important? I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, this is the thing that kills me about the Bryan Singer X-Men that. Or Bryan Singer movies, as far as X-Men goes, is that he, like you said, he gets a pass. Like, he really tries. He really tries to make the X-Men. Basically, what he's doing, he's trying to put, a real spin on X-Men. Like, he's trying to make X-Men exist in a real world, and he gets a pass for that. But other comic book movies don't. Like Man of Steel, for one. They don't get a pass for really bringing out, or they got criticized for really bringing out the alien part of Superman and trying to put him in a real world and trying to give him real emotions and what would it really happen for a kid that came up that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's what I really liked about Man of Steel, was when they did that. But for me, that kind of stuff is what's holding X-Men movies back, because like a lot of people, like you said, were upset about X-Men 3, but at least we got to see more mutant activity in X-Men 3 than we got from 1 and 2. I felt like they kept, every time you were about to get some cool stuff happen, it was like, all right, hold back, we don't want to give too much in those first X-Men movies, because they felt like X-Men was a detriment to the X-Men movies. Being X-Men, being the personality, of the X-Men characters, was a detriment to the movie in some way. That's why I feel like that's why we didn't get Wolverine squaring off against a Sentinel like he's supposed to, because they felt like, oh, that'd have been too much X-Men for this movie that we're trying to ground in reality.
Yeah.
And that's what annoys me, I think, the most about these movies. Like, I like them overall as movies, but as X-Men movies, I feel like for lack of a better term, we're getting X-Men blue balls.
Basically, yeah. I mean, basically, and the sad thing about it is Hugh Jackman does such a good job as Wolverine. He really does, man. You can tell he likes playing that role, but he's getting old, dude. And I'm like, right. I'm afraid we're not gonna get one that'll let him cut loose. I mean, in the Wolverine, they actually let him cut loose in 2 of those scenes against the Yakuza and the ninjas. Mm. I mean, they let him cut loose. They didn't let him go fully berserk, but they let him cut loose. Why is it you can't let him cut loose in the regular X-Men titles? Let him cut loose. Another thing that I can't stand with the X-Men movies, and like I said, like we've been saying, the X-Men movies overall, yes, they're good if you watch them as movies. But coming from a comic book stance, dude, I'm sorry. We've got good movies like Avengers, like Iron Man, like Thor, like Incredible Hulk. We've got good movies, and then I'm sorry, Avengers messed it up for everybody in the superhero movie world. They did, because you know what? Marvel pulled it off. Mm. And I hate to have to be the one to say this. I wish Spider-Man and X-Men could go back to Marvel. I wish they could, because I'm tired of Bryan. I'm just tired of Bryan Singer. I'm tired of him. As far as like comic books, yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I was just saying we finally get the X-Men we wanted. I think if Marvel was in control, we finally get the Spider-Man even that we want. Mm-hmm. If Marvel was control. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Because like I said, and the killer of all killers. At the end of X-Men: Days of Future Past, there is a little 10-second stinger. There and I read this later. They're trying to do Apocalypse in the next X-Men film. It's supposed to come out in 2017, I think it is, and it's going to be about Apocalypse. I'm sorry, you cannot do Apocalypse in one movie.
Mm-mm.
Apocalypse is a build up. You build up to Apocalypse. If you don't know who Apocalypse is, in the comic, his name is Insabu Nur. He is the first mutant. He was
Mm-hmm.
born in ancient Egypt. He was a slave. They killed him. He didn't die. He's immortal. He's the first mutant and he's immortal. Because the thing about it in the comics was he'll be the first and the last mutant standing. That's basically what it is. And I'm not gonna go deep into Apocalypse because that's what Wikipedia's for. But the basis of Apocalypse is he's a mutant that is insanely strong because his mutant power has just been developing and mutating over time. He's what, 5,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just been mutating. His power just been mutating. He is insanely strong. The problem is you have to in the movies you can't just have him in the movie. You just can't have him just show up.
No.
You need to introduce the Four Horsemen. You need to introduce Mr. Sinister. You need at least 2 movies. He shouldn't show up until the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
That's when he should wake up. He should wake up at the end of the first movie when it took them everything to stop to stop whatever plot it was going on, and that happens. Like if the way I would do it personally would be have the X-Men actually be X-Men and take on the Four Horsemen and Sinister, and when they finally stop whatever plan they have him wake up at the end, and then go into 2 with him being with Apocalypse fully awakened.
Right.
So I'm sorry, people, but I already know I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Apocalypse should have his own damn movie. I mean, you can't. You know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna walk in with their little notes and say, "Well, Apocalypse, yeah, he's this guy who blah blah blah, disjointed, delivery of his backstory real quick in about under a minute, it just completely devalued the dude, and that's what's gonna happen, and it's just gonna be so unfulfilling. It's just gonna be tragic, and that's what they're gonna do because
it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be sad because you like I said, you need to build up to him, and then you need to devote a decent amount of time to him.
Yeah, I mean, no, even worse, they're gonna bring it up on a computer. They're gonna be a holograph of.
Yeah. They're gonna be
you're gonna show
in the war room.
Things. Exactly. You're gonna be in the war room. You're gonna be a holograph of him killing some people. And it's like, oh, and people will be screaming, and Apocalypse. And that'll be it.
And it's just, and that's my beef, because I don't know who's directing it or writing it. I hope it's not Singer, but in his team. But I'm sorry, Fox, don't do this. Don't do this. Just build up to him. Just build up to him. Don't sit there and be like, oh, well, we need to get in Apocalypse right now. Hell, you still don't even have Gambit in the movies yet.
I mean, that's talk about blue balls. I mean, that's just a joke to not have Gambit. Gambit was my favorite X-Men. Like, everybody loved Wolverine. I get it. I love Gambit because back in the day, I used to, throw a mean bow staff myself. So I latched on to Gambit. Donatello's my favorite, Ninja Turtle. Just to throw that out there too. I love the dudes with bow staffs. So Gambit was my dude. And he was a huge part of the comic. He's a huge part of the cartoon, back in the day. And to not have him in still, and to give us him in the worst X-Men movie, which was, Origins. Yeah. And just to give him a little 2-minute or whatever he had, 5 minutes of screen time.
He was only in 2 scenes.
And I love Taylor Kitsch as him. Like, they should have kept him. I think they're changing him. Yeah. Right? Taylor Kitsch I thought would be a perfect Gambit, but c'est la vie. He's out. So but yeah, go ahead about your
it's stuff like that. Like, you don't have Rogue right. I'm sorry, I like my Rogue as a tomboy. You don't have to give her the whole flight and super strength thing. I understand that. You don't want to get into that because that's a little bit too far out there. But to have her emo, really? What? Y'all gonna have her emo, and then on top of that, and I'm actually kind of glad Anna Paquin actually wound up reading some comics, and she was like, "I want to play that girl. Like,
Exactly.
fans, we want you to. Trust us, the fans want you to. You might want to talk to Brian about that. You know,
Seriously.
because she's a tomboy. She's a fighter. She's a slugger. She's a brawler. Let her go. Let her do it. Anna Paquin was a good enough actress, in my opinion, that I think she could pull it off. But just because I believe in her talent that well. Another character on top of the whole Jubilee Shadowcat thing, even though I do like Ellen Page's Kitty, I'm still upset about Jubilee because you had her in like 3 movies and you did nothing with her. And I'm sorry, I want Wolverine to have his sidekick. I just want Wolverine to have a sidekick, especially when they did it in the Wolverine and it worked beautifully. So
I just want to throw this out there too, since we talk about characters, and like a huge casting, a miscast with me was Halle Berry as Storm. I mean, let's just let's just put that out there. I love Halle Berry. You know, she's a beautiful woman, but she's not Storm.
She is not Storm.
For me, the best actress the person that should have been Storm is I can't think of her name right now.
Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett, thank you. Angela Bassett is your Storm. You know, so huge miscast for me. Like,
and if you're saying that Angela Bassett is too old to play it, go Google a picture of her
right now.
Right now,
lady is fine.
Google a picture of Angela Bassett and then come back and talk trash. All right, continue.
And, you know, Halle Berry ain't young right now herself either. Yeah. But I mean, these are both beautiful women, no doubt about it. Still, so you know, the age difference is not a big deal as far as Storm goes. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I guess Halle Berry was the one because she was a bigger name. I don't know why. When the first X-Men came out, she was a bigger name based on her looks. I mean, let's just put it out there, because her acting, the movies that she had been in to that point weren't that great. So, and her characters in the movies haven't been that great. But you know, there's so many different issues that we have with the Singer movies. Again, you know, he went for he doesn't seem to get the the flack that other guys get for going the grittier route, and he gets a pass for some reason. He has a substantial amount of fanboys out there, that give him a pass, kind of like the right
now.
Probably they're upset right now. They're probably clacking the keyboard. Kind of like the Nolan fanboys.
Yeah.
So, obviously, like I said, these are good movies, but to me they're not good, X-Men movies, because I think we're pointing out some pretty good, things here. And then, like you said, a lot of people jump on the Brett Ratner, and Brett Ratner is not my favorite director by any means, but Bryan Singer did produce that third one, I believe.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. He still produced it. His team was still in place, so he doesn't get a complete pass. But the thing is, I think the biggest flaw with that movie was the Phoenix mishap. The Phoenix mishandling, and I completely agree with that.
I agree with that as well. But the problem is they didn't introduce the inner circle. So my thing was, they should have, like I said, this is a problem because of X2. They should not have ended it like that.
I was gonna say, the thing is, like you said earlier, is that the Brett Ratner and whatever he wanted to do was so tied to what the first 2 X-Men films were doing. So no matter what happened, it couldn't be good. And to give an example, how about episode 1 and 2 of Star Wars? Like, it's as good as as much better as Star Wars episode 3 was. It was still trash because of what it had to kowtow to, because of episode 1 and 2 were so terrible. So no matter what they did, it was a lot better, but it was still ultimately still trash because of what came before it. So it had no choice, of the direction. It was still, it was tied to, the direction of the first 2 movies. And that's the same thing that happened with X3. So, yeah.
I completely agree. I completely agree. So, and this is gonna be our last one for today, people. But we got to throw this one in. This is the last Bryan Singer one, and that's that daggone Superman Returns. Okay. now, don't get me wrong. Some of my favorite actors are in this movie. Well, two of them are anyway. Kevin Spacey and Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh did as good a job as you can do with what he was given. And Kevin Spacey did an okay job as Lex Luthor. My problem with Superman Returns is Bryan Singer ain't no Richard Donner. That's for damn sure. And on top of that, Superman 4 was not that great. That movie was atrocious. So,
Terrible.
you know, I don't know why you would want to go the Richard Donner route. Leave Richard Donner stuff is Richard Donner stuff. It's classic. He is classic. He is class personified. His movies are classic. You, on the other hand, and I know you may have had fun with those movies and watching the movies as I have when I was coming up. I can understand that. But that was one of them situations where they really should have tried to do their own thing instead of trying to make Superman 5. That's basically what they tried to do.
Actually, I think what he was trying to do was make Superman 3. I think basically Bryan Singer was discounting 3 and 4 both together. They didn't exist as far as he was concerned. He wanted to make part 3 to the Richard Donner, because Richard Donner got fired in the middle of part 2. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but so actually a lot of Superman 2 was reshot. I can't remember the new director's name. It's like Richard Lancaster, something like that. I can't remember his name, but he came in and he basically put in that whole Paris crap.
Oh yeah,
the bomb and on the Eiffel Tower and all that garbage. That wasn't Richard Donner. That was the new guy. I can't remember his name right now. Don't care. He did 3 and 4, and they were both atrocious. Basically, what Bryan Singer was trying to do was make a new part 3, an alternate universe, and make Superman 3, and that was the problem to begin with. Because you're not, like you said, you're not Richard Donner, and a bigger factor is that it's not 1978 anymore.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that worked for us audiences, aren't going to work. Things that worked in 1980 audience, it's not going to work for 2006 audience. I think it was 2006 when it came out. Right?
It was 06. Yeah.
Right. So the audience was way different. We had, at that point, we had Batman Begins. We had a darker tone coming out of the Spider-Man movies even, and so a lot of the movies were kind of getting darker, and so the audience was different. That kind of happy-go-lucky stuff from that era wasn't going to work on its own. You had to put something else into it to give it some oomph. But he just tried to cater too much to those two films, and that killed them from the beginning.
Yeah, because one of my big problems with that movie was the Kryptonite Island, and the even though I found it funny, was the beat down that Luthor and and his thugs gave him after they stabbed him with the kryptonite. But my thing is, we know how weak Superman gets around kryptonite. You mean to tell me he's able to pick up a kryptonite island and fly it into? I'm sorry.
I mean,
his name is Clark Kent, not Goku.
Look. Yeah, we don't have a problem with the fact that him picking up an island. The fact that it was a kryptonite island. Yeah. That's just ridiculous. Yet he can't handle a little shank from kryptonite. Yeah. But he's ready to die over that. But he can lift an island. The whole real estate thing, it was so dead. We were so past enough with Lex Luthor and his real estate scams. Really? We had so many great villains in comic books by the time we got Lex Luthor coming back in 2006. And it was just the same Lex Luthor from 1978, 1980. It's just, we were so past that. We needed Doomsday, That's what we needed. Or they could have went Brainiac.
Yeah, Brainiac, or even like how they did Lex Luthor when they did the reinvention. I think it was what 2003 or
Oh,
four in the
exactly. I was
comics.
getting to that.
That Lex Luthor.
We needed Lex Luthor in a kryptonite suit. You know,
Yeah,
that's what we needed at this point. Lex Luthor, business mogul, only, real estate dude. I mean, that was so over with, and especially in the comics. Like you said, we were way past that dude. By,
yeah,
2006 movie. That's where he should have been going. But like you said, this dude isn't really into the comic stuff. He wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to kowtow to, the film version of Superman, which, has its merits, but we were past that by 2006. We needed some oomph. We needed to bring Superman back in a big way because we hadn't seen him on screen since that horrible 1980, what is it, 86, 87,
I think
part
I want to say it
4?
was 87. Yeah, 87 or 88. Because
Yeah.
that's when the Supergirl movie came out. The Supergirl movie is actually
Yeah.
better than 3, and people was like, "What the heck?"
Right. And that's not saying much either,
Yeah,
but
that wasn't saying much. So
it was better.
yeah, I mean, because true. By that time, you got to think we've had Tim Burton's Batman by 2006.
Right. Right.
Those were the first two that actually kicked it off because he actually did a good job. Even though Tim
Exactly.
Burton did crazy crap, it worked. You had Blade, you had X-Men, you had Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, Spider-Man was kooky, but there was some dark stuff going on,
yeah,
especially Spider-Man 2.
yeah.
So
By this time, okay, dude, you have to up the game a little bit, and then on top of that, in the comics, if you're gonna go Lex Luthor, you gotta go Lex Luthor, billionaire philanthropist, still a bad guy.
yeah,
You can't go real estate baron mogul. I'm still kind of silly. You gotta
just
go.
got out of jail. Really?
Yeah, that whole thing. And my thing with that was, I'm like, okay, look, you have that, go that route, because another thing I think that hurt them was that cartoon,
Mm.
that Superman, that Adventures of Superman cartoon that came out.
It was, yeah. The cartoons were so much
Yeah,
better. Like even the Smallville Lex Luthor was better than
yeah,
than this dude. So it's like, come on.
yeah. And once again, people, if you think I'm lying, that is Bryan Singer and that whole writing team. Like I said, there was only one person on that writing team that wasn't on the Superman movie, that on the Superman Returns movie, that was on the original X1 and X2 writing team.
Mm.
Because I think he stayed for X3. Everybody else went to Superman Returns. So
Right.
that's why I was like, I don't understand how this guy gets to get a free pass when it comes to critics, and they don't want to. They act like, oh, he does the best movies. I'm sorry. I mean, yes, does. He do good movies? Yes, I'm not denying that. But when it comes to like comic book stuff and like, and I'm sorry, he don't got it. I mean,
Yeah.
I have seen good comic book movies. You can't tell me you can't do a good one now.
Yeah.
You
I
can.
just want I just wanted to give to end on the Superman Return stuff. It's just, I'm so saddened by it. And this full disclosure here, I was a in Damage Control fanboy when that movie came out. Like I was like, oh no, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great. I was telling everybody it's great. Don't worry about the critics, blah blah blah. This movie's amazing because I'm a Superman fanboy. I'm not a Bryan Singer fanboy. I'm just a Superman. I'm a DC comic fanboy. So I was trying to, I was doing some Damage Control. I ain't even gonna lie. The movie was great, but it finally came around to me where I just couldn't lie about it anymore. And it was so sad to me because, like you said, I loved Brandon Routh as Superman. Like, I think he was a perfect pick, but he had nothing to work with. It wasn't his fault that movie was bad.
Yeah.
He had no. I mean, he basically stood around and was a creeper, you know, you know, just staring at Lois Lane through windows and keeping an eye on her. It was just creepy.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, dude, you don't need to do that. You really don't need to
And
do
not to
that.
mention the whole deadbeat dad thing. He left and she had a kid. No, I just wanted to forget about that whole thing. That's why we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, because that subplot should have been cut.
Should have never even.
Should have just been cut.
Oh man, that was a disaster.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was one of them disasters that you couldn't just you could just be in the movie theater just shaking your head like, I can't believe they just did this.
I mean, let's just say, okay, let's say that the movie worked. It was a success. Where do you go with that subplot? Who is he gonna become?
Yeah.
Superman's
Superboy.
kid. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
Superboy.
exactly. Like, where are you gonna go with that? It was just a terrible, terrible decision all around. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, it was sad. Like I said, because Brandon Routh, I think that kind of killed the dude's career. You
Yeah.
know, that movie did so poorly because he should be in something. I hope somebody picks him up because he has a superhero all written all over him. Somebody should pick him up as something at some
Something.
point, please.
Give him a chance to do something because I've seen the guy act on Chuck. I've seen him on other movies. I mean, he was in Scott Pilgrim
Scott
versus the
Pilgrim. I was
World,
gonna say
and
Scott Pilgrim.
he did a great job in that. He is not a bad actor.
No, he's not.
He's a very good actor, and yeah, because of that movie, I think a lot of people are trying to stay away from him just because of that. I mean, and it really, honestly, in my opinion, it wasn't his fault. He had nothing to work with, and you know, there was no chemistry with him and Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane. I'm like, so there was nothing he could really work with. Well, plus the script wasn't helping him out at all. When I think about it, the script just was not helping him.
I mean, what script? It looked like it was improv.
They were ad-libbing.
I mean, what's the name? Is Lois Lane was a terrible choice. You know, she just was there. You know,
And it was real dry and flat. So
it was so flat. Yeah, that's the thing. With every scene was just so dry, and there was no life in those scenes. Like the Richard Donner films were so full of life.
That is why I say it was the writing, because I can't, you know, look, Kate Bosworth is not my favorite actress, but I've seen some stuff where she's been pretty decent in.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, she just was bad for Lois Lane. She's not a bad actress.
Yeah, but it was just flat all around. Her character was. That's why I was so happy when in Man of Steel when they made Amy Adams that version of Lois Lane. I like that version.
Thank you. Yes.
I like because she ain't stupid.
She's not stupid. She's proactive.
Yeah, and glasses ain't gonna work.
Oh man, I was so happy when they did that because, you know, I understand that a lot of especially comic book movies, they kind of, you know, you have plot holes, especially like Avengers gets a pass. It has a lot of plot holes.
Oh
like,
yeah,
the whole Hulk thing. All of a sudden he can control it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole. But you know what? I didn't care because that shot was so damn awesome.
Yeah.
You know, when he turned around and smashed that ship, it was like I don't care. I don't care that he just automatically all of a sudden could control it. So, you know, you let stuff slide because it's so cool, and that wasn't the case in this film because everything was so dull. You couldn't let stuff like, you know, slide. And it's the thing about Man of Steel that was awesome is that they said, all right, we can't just let in this era people aren't going to accept that you can't recognize Superman because he got some damn glasses on. I mean, that's just silly. So I'm glad that they just said, you know, because she's so close to him and she was so close to him, she would be the first person to recognize him, you know.
Yeah, especially
most people see him as a blue blur, you know.
Yeah.
But she was right there, so she should know if she's around him that that's Superman, duh, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I'm glad they addressed that in the Man of Steel.
Because the thing was, she's supposed to be one of the world's best investigative reporters.
Right.
And you mean to tell me she can't tell now people, this is crap, I can't remember. But my nephew gave me a comparison. He was like, look, it's not like Adam from He-Man turning from Adam to He-Man, where he goes from 5'5", 140 to 6'9", 380.
Right.
You know, this dude takes off glasses.
Right.
So I mean that was one of those things where, okay, good. You know, I'm happy. I'm glad about that in the Zack Snyder one. In the other ones, I'm just like, you know, man.
Right.
Like, this is kind of like unbelievable. Really.
We saw it in Superman Returns, and it just by this time it just didn't work anymore. You know, we saw that it was just stupid that here she is right next to the dude, and she's been so close, and she's been really close. Obviously, they got a damn kid that she wouldn't recognize the dude that she bare kids with. You know, so. Just because he ain't got no cape on and he has glasses on his face. I mean, he's still the same height. He's still the same width. You can still see his facial features. Putting glasses on him that's just ridiculous. So
yeah, that's really ridiculous. So yeah, I mean that was that. I mean, but on the whole, though, I think like comic book movies are getting better because
Yes.
we're getting better directors. John Favreau with Iron Man. We getting we have directors that are actually uh, taking their time and learning the characters and things of that nature. Like I said, Joss Whedon used to write comics.
Mm.
So that's why he was the
Exactly.
perfect choice for Avengers. He wrote Avengers and he wrote X-Men.
Right.
That's why I was like, man, I hope Fox does something stupid and loses X-Men so they can get it back. I'm like, I would love to see Joss Whedon write and direct the X-Men movie.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not an automatic. Like Joss Whedon, obviously, he had all this background with the TV shows, Buffy, and all that. So he built up his skills. Like everybody can't do that. And I'll point out real quickly a writer that got the directing reins and was terrible for Blade Trinity. What's his name? He does all the comic book movie writing. Oh my God, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either because he
A
wrote
little tattooed.
yeah, because he wound up helping to write Batman Begins.
Exactly, right. I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. But that guy obviously did a horrible job in Blade Trinity. It was a joke. And maybe we'll go into that in a future episode about
Oh yeah, we will. But and that's the thing. I'm like, people, we're getting better stuff because we're getting better I think we're getting better quality directors that
Right.
they may not have read comics or they may not have anything to do with comics, but you know what? They know how to pick up a comic now.
Mm.
They know how to use Wikipedia now.
Exactly. There's too many resources to not be able to do that stuff. So
yeah, so I mean, we getting, and then on top of that, we're getting TV shows that are actually doing it. Marvel Agents of Shield. I can't believe I'm saying this. Arrow. The upcoming shows, we got Gotham. I think Gotham's going to be good.
David Goyer, that's his name.
David Goyer. But I think Gotham's going to be good. I think The Flash is going to be good. You know, so as it evolves, I think we're going to get better and better movies because then we're going to get people that actually, look, I know this material.
Right. People that grew up with this stuff,
They will sit up and say, okay, look, this isn't how it's supposed to go down. This is how it works. My only problem is in the case of like X-Men, you got Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Hugh Jackman, and I know they can't do it forever. And that's gonna hurt when they eventually reboot it because they're gonna have to. So
I mean, they pretty much passed over the reins already to the younger versions, which are some excellent actors, by the way. Excellent actors.
Yeah,
I will give them that. They cast some excellent people in these movies. That's for sure.
Yeah, they just need some better written stuff, some actual X-Men stuff instead of what we've been getting. But like I said, I mean, and that's basically what this whole Fresh Take is gonna be like. So Fresh Take is gonna be like this pretty much. I think we're gonna do twice a month.
Yeah, we'll try to do it twice a month.
Yeah, we try to do it twice a month. We may have some guests on from time to time, but other than that, that's what Fresh Take is gonna be. So, T, you want to give an outro?
Well, it's Mr. T of the Mr. T Show. Thank y'all for joining us for this first episode. We're going to work out the kinks and, up the production value for the upcoming episodes. Like we said, we might have some new guests, so stay tuned for the future episodes, fools.
All right. And it's me, Jay, of the Game Cafe and now Fresh Take. So, be on the lookout. Like I said, we're going to try to do this at least twice a month, maybe only once a month. This depends. And it depends on if you guys like it or not, So don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends and family about us if you like it. We'll try to make sure that we keep it under, we try to keep it under from like 45 minutes to an hour. That way, we don't take up too much time out your day. And I will make up a SoundCloud of MP3s for this, so don't worry about that if you want to take it with you and put it on your phone or on your iPod. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.